Welcome to the October Kansas City Office 365 user group. Thank you guys so much for coming. As usual, we start with just some events that are coming up. The best way I know how to do this is to tell you what's on my calendar. So there's always other events out there that I don't know about, but here's some of the ones that I'm excited about. So next month, we will do our normal monthly user group meeting, second Monday of the month. Next month, we're going to have Jeff Abels, who will be talking about RPA and Power Automate, which is a really hot, trendy topic right now. So we're really excited to have him come in and give an overview on that for next month. Microsoft Community Office Hours. The reason I was a couple minutes late is I was actually just on that. So Christian Buckley hosts an hour and a half every Monday morning at 10 a.m. our time, where you can just kind of pop on. You can ask questions of him and anybody that happens to pop into that group, and they basically go through and answer as many questions as they can. There's a random collection of different people in the Microsoft universe that kind of pop in there and answer questions. You can always watch any of his sessions. You can go to his buckleyplanet.com and he has them all listed. And he also live streams them through Facebook as well. So every Monday, if you just pop onto there, you can see some of the trending topics that are going on in Microsoft and see some questions that get answered. This coming Thursday, we have a mini conference. So the Digital Women of Kansas City, I'm actually on the board for this group and I'm really passionate about them. They put this group together to basically empower women in the digital space. So it's not just about developers. There's business analysts and designers and graphic designers and web designers and marketers and everybody that kind of works in the digital space, which is funny because that's becoming everybody at some point. But we empower women and help women to be able to kind of go on that journey and make sure they've got the right networking tools and things like that. And our annual mini conference, it's only a half a day, so you're not there for an entire day, is actually this Thursday afternoon. And the focus of this year's conference is really navigating disruption and all of the craziness that's happened. And so there's some things about tech tools and there's some things about virtual meetings, but there's also topics, just to kind of help you handle change and move forward with what's going on. So I think it's going to be really exciting. If anybody's interested in participating in that, you can just go to the website, thedigitalwomenkansascity.org, go to events. You can sign up right there. You can also sponsor tickets. So there's a lot of people right now that are unemployed or that don't have any money to be able to join anything. So we created the opportunity for people who are doing okay to be able to sponsor a ticket for somebody else. And in addition, if you know anybody that'd like to attend but they can't afford it, there's a form on there they can fill out to request one of those sponsored tickets. And that's worked out really, really well. So it's been great to see the community come together and help that. And all of the ticket purchases go back to help the organization to train and work with people. So it's been great. And then we are still doing a few Sharepoint Saturdays, only now they're virtual Fridays. So it's funny, in my newsletter, I sent them out and I was like, we've got one for Cincinnati and one for Houston over the next few weeks. And, and I think that's the wrong date. Cincinnati is actually, is that right? 23rd, 30th. This is actually, sorry guys, I don't know how that, see, there we go. So this is several people looking at it too. Over the next few weeks, Cincinnati and Houston are going to have a virtual Sharepoint Saturday, only they're going to have it on a Friday. So we've got virtual Friday for Cincinnati and virtual Friday for Houston. Like all good Sharepoint Saturday events, you can go to spsevents.org and sign up for those for free. And then you can just pop in and watch those at your leisure from home. And then the last one that I put on here is the Kansas City IABA chapter is doing their monthly meeting on the 28th. I thought this was super cool, and I thought this group would be really, really into this. But Dina Chadwick is going to go over how to elicit requirements like an FBI agent. So uncovering the problem and uncovering the need for whatever it is that you're going to be working on your project. So I think it's going to be a really good session. And all you have to do is go to the kansascity.iiba.org website to sign up and register for that. And it's in the evening. They do their meetings in the evenings. I don't remember exactly what time, but it says on there. I think they're usually at like 7 on a Wednesday evening. Any questions about any of the upcoming events? I'm double checking to make sure that I didn't mess up the times again.
I love the idiom used here of how to elicit requirements like an FBI agent. I spent a considerable amount of time reviewing idioms to put in my slides. Oh, I didn't know you were having Jeff on November 9th. He's great. What a cool guy. Does he live down by you guys?
He's in North Carolina, I believe.
Okay, yeah, all right. So he hasn't moved. Got it, cool.
But it's a virtual world, so, you know, we can have people from anywhere, and it's been fantastic. You can join from anywhere, and we can just present from anywhere.
I did check. IIBA starts at 7. They're 7 Central Time.
There we go. Now we've got it all. Excellent.
And it's right, probably.
Probably correct. Probably accurate. We're hoping that everything's okay. Just show up. It'll be fine. Okay, cool.
Oh, that FBI agent thing caught my attention pretty quick too.
Yeah, well, and I think, you know, when we talk about gathering requirements, a lot of times people say, yeah, we gathered the requirements, we wrote down what they wanted, but it's not just writing down what they want, right? It's really uncovering all of the details and all the information. And sometimes you got to kind of do some detective work to get a little more out of them than what they're actually telling you. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's interesting.
What they don't know that they want.
Yes. Yes, it's about what they need, not what they want, right? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to hand this over to Dave. We're really excited to have Dave here. I think he kind of ping-pongs back and forth a little bit between Idaho and LA on a regular basis. I'm not entirely sure exactly where he's located today. Which location are you in today?
I'm in Manhattan Beach today. I was in Long Beach yesterday. I was in Carlsbad the day before, and I was in Del Mar the day before. Yes, I do bounce around a little bit. That is true.
So we're excited to have Dave talk about kind of his experience from Ignite and some things you might want to know. So I'm going to turn my camera off and let him take over and introduce himself, and then we'll get rolling.
Thank you very much. Anyone able to see my screen?
I can see it.
Yeah, we just had a little lag, but we can see it.
Okay, thank you. I saw that as well. I saw in the chat that I think Sherry Osborne was getting on her bicycle. So if she's exercising right now, she might want to turn off the video because I might make her fall off her bike. Anyway, so today's talk is on, I'm recapping Microsoft Ignite 2020. Speaking of idioms, the seeking a four-leaf clover and a patch of knowledge. How's that? I tried my best here. So let's see. I have been attending Ignite and related conferences for quite some time. I do turn 50 this Thursday, and I've been involved with Microsoft technologies professionally since 1993. I am the president of Crush Networks, and we have 3 full-time employees plus an army of contractors. And we specialize in 3 things. We do systems integration, we do SharePoint subject matter expertise, and we do business process automation. And we are headquartered in Boise, Idaho. And as was mentioned, I bounce around a lot. So today I'm in Manhattan Beach, California. All right, before we get started, a couple things. First of all, since the event took place 3 weeks ago or so, the product roadmaps have already been released. And I observed during the event that many of the announcements they made were kind of publicized before the event already. Also, a caveat that the delivery dates that are announced by Microsoft are often inaccurate, and even during this event, it's no different, that the roadmap they provided contradicted a lot of the announcements during the event. And for my presentation, I'll be grouping the announcements by product or feature area, but know that some announcements span multiple products. So this year it was a virtual event, and Corona sucks, I get it, but I think you will find throughout the presentation, if you don't know me already, that I survive and thrive meeting with other people in person. And even though this was a virtual event, I did, go to New Orleans for you anyway. Anyway, that's where it was supposed to be. So now that we're going to drink from the fire hose of knowledge of all the announcements, tons of announcements were made, way too many. I think someone figured it out, and if you watched every talk and read every PowerPoint slide, it would be 9 months to get through everything. There were many new features that were announced to existing products, and new releases also announced. What I've done is I've gone through as much as I can, and I've tried to distill that knowledge down, and I intend to share what's important. So first of all, if you haven't already viewed the Book of News, Dan Holm released this. I think he put the announcement out on Twitter, I'll say a week ago maybe. And that is the URL for it. It is the #1 thing at news.microsoft.com right now. And what it is a website that has some links into it, but it's kind of like an executive briefing. It doesn't provide a lot of screenshots, but it will launch you off to other subject areas, usually at the tech community site, and where you can then view some of the announcements and things that they said. I will say that I enjoyed reading the Book of News. It is a bit too high level for those of us in the trenches and looking for end user benefits. And so I've tried to get the value add out of those. The first area I'd like to talk about is Microsoft Search, specifically images. So, and I'll provide screenshots as we go through. So with Microsoft Search, you can search for images like never before, and it leverages optical character recognition using the Cognitive Services Computer Vision API to actually crack open images, read the words on them, add them to the index. And so now you can search and view images and filter image results down by type and much, much more. The image to text OCR searchable piece is huge. I've been playing with the computer vision API for a customer for a little while. While it's not the best one that's out in the industry, it's a great start. And frankly, it allows customers to scan images. And well, the end benefit is that when you're in a product like SharePoint, you are able to search for text and it will return images that have that text in it. I just remembered I need to set a timer to make sure I don't go over. Okay, here we go. So the roadmap date for this is December 2020 for images. Here's a screenshot of it. Up here, it is actually being searched like on an iPad. You can see this is the Microsoft SharePoint Online, and somebody has typed in the word Surface. Search result screen has popped up, and you can see the results and even download the images. Just a quick screenshot on images. Also on Microsoft Search area is conversations. So there's a new tab in the search results for those, and it will search conversations in things like Yammer, Outlook, of course, in Teams. And the value to this is that you don't have to jump through various applications to find results. Why that is huge is that, first of all, consolidating it in one user interface is a huge win for end users. Second of all, the results that are showing up oftentimes a conversation you get notified of something in Yammer or in Teams, and you click on the link and it opens that program. But what I like is that you can continue the conversations in the other tools, and I'll show you some screenshots. So the biggest value add to me is just not needing to launch the other apps to search for results in multiple different places. So that should be completely rolled out in December of 2020. Here's a screenshot showing somebody in SharePoint using the unified Microsoft search, and you see there's a conversations tab, and you can see posts from Yammer, Outlook, Teams. There's the first three are in Teams, the next one's Outlook, the next one's in Yammer. I think that's pretty darn slick. Next up, you can filter by people. And looking at that group of clowns there in the picture, you'd probably want to filter some of those out too. So the old way of filtering people out, and which still works, is you can type in, author : David Leveille, or editor : Sharon Weaver, and it would return results if you knew how to do that. The new way is that you can filter persons by relationship in an organization. So for example, finding an email where a person was mentioned or involved in some way. So for example, if Sharon and I were having an email thread back and forth, and then maybe we moved over to Teams, but somewhere along the way we mentioned Jonathan or Nicole, we could search for either Jonathan or Nicole, and it would find search results from Teams and Outlook where Nicole was mentioned, and it's related to the org chart. So that should come out in December 2020. Here's a screenshot of it over in Outlook email on the phone on the left, and then over in SharePoint is on the right, where in this example on the phone, Elvia Atkins was searched for, a program manager, and it shows things from the inbox over there on the left, and over on the right, I can see that Cameron Evans was searched for, and it shows up in many shared documents mentioned in PowerPoints, and you have filters by file type and by date as well. So pretty cool stuff. The roadmap for Microsoft Search is big, almost as big or bigger than the one for SharePoint. And I'll provide this deck so we can go through this later, but there's a lot of stuff that's already available. And the roadmap for calendar year 2020 for the second half is over on the left, and the first half of 2021 is over on the right. And some exciting things, of course, are the connectors like to Salesforce and other, Azure and SQL Server and ServiceNow. Those third-party connectors are going to be a great benefit to your customers as they are to mine. Are there any questions about Microsoft Search that I can answer for you? If not, pull over into Microsoft Stream. This is formerly Office 365 Video. And if you're unfamiliar with what Stream is, it's a tool that Yammer and Teams uses to record meetings. It is the tool that provides live captions in Teams. That leverages the Stream product. And the answer to the question, well, what is it? It's like an internal YouTube. That's the reference that people have been using, where you can upload videos and users can comment on them. You now have the ability to create channels, like maybe an HR onboarding channel in Stream, to associate your videos with that channel. Stream also allows you to do some basic editing, but the big change is that the Stream video files that are created will be saved into SharePoint in OneDrive. In the bottom right is Ryan Scouten. He's also in my next slide because he has been traveling the world talking about Microsoft Stream from an MVP perspective, and he does all the video for our IAMCP as well as our user group in San Diego. So wanted to highlight him. So Stream, with the files going to the new location of OneDrive and SharePoint, that means a migration of any existing content will be required. And the tool to do that, I have some dates on those on the next slide. Also, the old files that you move to the new files, they're going to make it so people trying to access the old files will be redirected for up to a year. The value to this is, of course, that sharing videos will become much easier, and I have a screenshot of that experience. And the bonus is that the recorded videos, like the one from this event today that's being recorded here in Teams, can be shared very easily within Teams. Other benefits that came out were there's some new analytics on stream, sort of similar to what YouTube or Facebook Live analytics are. Better noise suppression, which I think we saw demonstrated. I think somebody was vacuuming somebody, and the noise suppression, you couldn't even hear them doing that. And the automatic transcription. Here's a screenshot showing the stream homepage in Office 365. Up top, you see there's options of how to create content, a lot easier, organized with an upload button, screen recording. You can do a webcam video, create a playlist, or do an audio podcast. It has recommended videos, and then of course all the video files are down below. In addition, when you click on a video, you can see on the right is the transcript that gets created of the video. And down below on the bottom left, in addition to the analytics that are there, just above the analytics of the views and the likes, you can actually see the bookmarks that they create, the catalog. It indexes and figures out the chapters. That's what I want to call it, chapters. So pretty cool improvements to stream. You'll see much more of that. So the experience across multiple devices, you've got your Android on the left, and it looks a lot more like, say, the mobile YouTube app, as well as on the iPhone and stuff like that. And what you're looking at are like the recordings and the most recent videos and the channels that were created for Contoso TV and Project Quick. Also, here's an example of a stream being shared within Teams, and you can open it in OneDrive or view it as an embedded or as a pop-out. And the site usage analytics shows you things like the unique viewers, the average time spent per user at 7 minutes, unique viewers, file statistics. So directly you can tell, for example, how many times was it viewed, but by how many unique viewers. So those are all your typical analytics you would expect to see, and they're there now. Also, because you can share stream over in the videos over in Teams, you can also control the permissions of it, similar to how you can for OneDrive, Yammer, and SharePoint, and Teams. The roadmap for streams, upcoming changes, what's available now, the external sharing to anonymous is pretty huge. People have wanted that since the beginning. And what's coming up are some of the analytics. Those are a few months out. And then there's additional SharePoint web parts that are being developed. And I have this in my deck and will be made available to you at the end. Any questions or comments on stream? If not, we will continue. Next up is Yammer. So people say that Yammer is like the company Facebook. Take it for what it is. The improvements they've made, if you've ever gone to user voice and you've upvoted things that you thought were important that they fix in Yammer or other tools, that feature of upvoting, the way I heard Matt Wade call it, like Reddit, and that makes sense, you can up and down vote things there, is that that will allow things to, more recommended content to show up on your page when you log into Yammer. Also, they've added tapbacks like you can on a iMessage chat or LinkedIn or Facebook or Teams. So you can quickly, with 2 clicks, add a thumbs up, for example. There's a bunch of new administrative features, a lot of which, have been missing for a long, long time, and those are now available. But they've also released this new one, slightly controversial, about posting on behalf of others as being an admin feature. And the reason that it's controversial to some people is that the best way to end user adoption of Yammer is to have people at the top of the organization post things to it, which then notifies the rest of the organization to go and look at it. But, you want people to use it and embrace it. And anyway, it is what it is. Maybe the executives are too busy to post their own stuff, so their admin assistant posts it. I don't know. I think that's the use case they're kind of going for there. The other ability that they've added is the questions. So community responses to questions. It used to be just posts and people could ask questions and post, but now you can categorize them as questions, and there's also a capability of converting a post into a question, and all that stuff rolls out by December of this year. So over here on the right, you see this is a Yammer video live taking place, or it's a recorded video, or it's a picture, and somebody is clicking the question button over on the right. Somebody added a comment and conversations to it. Also, here's a screenshot of, let's see, that looks like the wrong slide. Sorry, here we go. This is the Leadership Connection homepage, and you can see somebody here is, you can see at the bottom somebody's adding a comment as, and you can see that Carol, who is the content manager, can post, but the 3 other names in the drop down are executive vice presidents of marketing, sales, and CEO Alan as well. So that's the post as capability. And in this one, the notifications changes. So when you're going to post, you can change the notification settings, and it's warning them in this example that you're going to notify 2,385 people will be notified by email to come and click on the link in Yammer. So that's what's going on there. And then the analytics that they promised, this shows things like how many messages were posted, of which how many were read, how many reactions that you got, active members of Yammer, and people that just clicked on the link and never came back or never drilled into it. So cool, basic analytics. This is filtered by the last 28 days, but there are other filters being added. The roadmap for Yammer, there's a bunch of stuff coming out, like I mentioned before. They were supposed to come out end of October, but we'll see on the left. And then before the end of the year are things like data retention policies, SharePoint templates for Yammer, other exciting things with Yammer coming up. So any questions or comments about Yammer? I'm waiting for Jonathan to unmute and say, Dave, what's Yammer? But, oh well. If no questions or comments.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
What's Yammer?
There he is. Thank you. You always make me laugh, Jonathan. Hope your call went well with your customer.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm here for you, Dave.
Appreciate it. Moving on, OneDrive. Some fun stuff in OneDrive. You're allowed now to add comments to non-Office files, so like AutoCAD or image or video file. You can also, I think the big announcement for me is the moving of previously shared files maintains the permissions to where you move them to. I'm sure that technically this was extremely difficult to do. Also moved some OneDrive settings in the admin center, and I'll have a screenshot of that. There's also the 100 gigabyte individual file size, which still overwhelms me that people have those, but they do exist with all the layers and AutoCAD and stuff like that. And then the roadmap. A lot of the stuff in OneDrive is being rolled out to tenants right now. I did see the file move one in there. So over here on the right, in this screenshot of OneDrive, you can see that somebody is moving a file from within OneDrive over into Teams. Fascinating. So thankful that that feature exists. The next one is in the admin center of SharePoint. You can see that there's a retention setting in OneDrive for anywhere from 30 to 3,600 days or something like that to retain files once a user is marked for deletion. So that's kind of cool. So if an admin deletes a user, a leaver, an employee announces, to their boss, take this job and shove it, and then they lock down Active Directory and flag the user for deletion, it won't go and purge the OneDrive files immediately. You never know. People sometimes have a change of heart. The roadmap for OneDrive, there's really a lot of stuff, but I thought that those were the cool ones. I like that a lot of the search experience is updating on Android. There's also OneNote support. A lot of stuff is coming on with OneNote for Mac. Also, the Teams sharing integrations, pretty great stuff. But that's what's going on in summary. That's what's going on with OneDrive. Are there any questions about OneDrive? Some of their announcements. Oh yes, dark mode on Android. Some people really, really, really wanted that.
That's really the most important one.
Because when you're laying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have to find your PowerPoint deck for the user group that you're presenting on, that's when dark mode.
No, Dave, let's be realistic. They put dark mode in because all the developers whined about it.
Period. All right, you guys. Moving on from OneDrive, we're going into SharePoint. So brace yourself, Effie. SharePoint announcements were, not only are they extremely of interest to me as somebody who does things in SharePoint day in and day out for my customers and internally at Crush Networks, there was so much stuff that we could dedicate 45 minutes just to going through every bulleted announcement and not even talk about it. The big ones, in my opinion, are the new web parts, including an org chart web part, which Teams had that capability if you type in /org for a long time, but for some reason they've just added the web part. This is interesting. When I worked at Microsoft, one of the very first things that I worked on was the internal org chart tool. So to see, whatever it is, 25 years later, that it's now got a web part in SharePoint, I found that interesting. All right, so the improved Teamify experience. So when you create a team from an existing SharePoint site, that experience has been improved. I didn't think it was too rough, but I did receive calls from customers in the past. So I'm hoping this will prevent those incoming calls. The rollout for those are the end of this month. The other big one is a box migration to Office 365. So if you're in the Microsoft space, and as a partner we are, and you don't follow the world of Salesforce or Adobe or Box or Oracle, you're unaware that there are some pretty big, successful platforms and tools out there, even in the open source space. And the fact that the box migration is to migrate people out of that enterprise content management system to Office 365 in the cloud, I think that's going to be a huge win. I only have one customer still on Box, but they do things with Teams and Slack and some other competing tools. They're kind of all over the place. Whatever the team wants, they get, kind of a thing. They're trying to be frictionless, but the systems integration work I'm doing for them is extensive and around the clock. So this will be huge because I can. All right, the other is that the admin center for SharePoint has actionable tasks in it, and I'll show what I mean by that. It provides proactive recommendations. So in this example, we're in the admin center for Contoso, and you see that based on the SharePoint root site up above, it gives you a recommendation to modernize it. And the ability to modernize classic team sites to modern is getting much easier, and it makes the experience, like on mobile devices, much, much better. And it gives you recommendations and walks you through and provides guidance on how to do that. And these type of proactive recommendations are available for probably, I think it was like 16 different areas. So, you know, the modern lists and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. Also in the admin center, this is a screenshot of a box migration with most tools. Microsoft also provides the capability that most tools are providing, where you can scan for the files and the amount of data before you migrate it and figure out you know, how much data is in each one of the folders, etc., before you migrate. So it has a planning tool built in and a migrating tool. So pretty fascinating. Excited about that. Lots of announcements with SharePoint Sites. The recently released stuff is over on the left. By the end of the year is over on the right. Oh gosh, yes, there was so much talk about improvements to making a hub site, and the hub sites themselves are getting new features. There's a new app bar experience that goes across Office 365, and the SharePoint app bar has global navigation now, or will, I should say. Also, multinational is available for navigation, multilingual, I should say. Navigation, which is going to be huge for many of my clients. Looking forward to that. There's also a big emphasis on SharePoint News. Again, a lot of people really enjoy this. It's pretty cool to build a communication site, to host your news in it, to have those be pushed out to the mobile app. I mean, if you're doing modern workplace, you should check out SharePoint News. It's incredible. And there's some other great stuff coming. For example, there's going to be a SharePoint home site app in Teams coming. So that, I think, is going to be next year or something like that. Yeah, it's in the bottom right, Q1 2021. That's the site experience. So here's some of the changes to sites and where you can learn more about those. Yes, there's a new worldwide theme designer coming out, pinning the home site to the app launcher. Audience targeting is coming back in the navigation even, so that's exciting. Next up, okay, so I have these slides a little bit out of order. So SharePoint Syntax is the first product to come from the project Cortex team, and this product uses AI to search company files in the background. It automatically builds a data model for you. It adds metadata by tagging org-specific content. Examples of org-specific content might be a contract number. It might be a part number. It might be a shipping address. It might be a warehouse, a distribution center. So this process automation, what it does is it prepares content for business process automation, and the benefit is that it saves a lot of time. So for example, I've got a company that does vehicle leasing, and believe it or not, how that typically works in this day and age is a lot like in banking and other systems, is they're not doing electronic signature. So they have a contract template that somebody opens in Word, they change a bunch of stuff, they save it as a PDF, they email it to their client. Their client typically prints it out, does a wet signature on it, takes pictures of it or scans it in and emails it back. And then the customer takes the attachment from email and puts it into SharePoint. And at that point, it's in SharePoint and the automation can take place. So a lot of businesses still do business that way. Electronic signatures, I know, have been out for a long time. That's a different subject altogether. But my point is that the data that's already in SharePoint, in this example I provided, it would be vehicle leasing contracts. So got a client that's got 20,000 PDFs of lease documents, and they're all worded a little bit differently, but using Syntax, they're going to be able to highlight the areas that are important and create some, robotic processing to get all that data and analyze it without having to double click on every single file, open it up, run find. It's going to save a lot of time, lots of time, hours and hours of time. And it's also great for, discovery, e-discovery, to be able to find that data quickly. So you might know a customer name, you might know a vehicle identification number, you might know a helicopter hull number, you might know, a boat hull number, I should say. But the ability to open files, look at them, index them, and return results is going to save a lot of time. This is being released right now, and that's what Syntax is. That's my interpretation of it. Up in the top right corner of this page, all that is that's an image that has text on it. And the example they provided was that, an image that has the phrase Surface Hub on it, for example, could be searched and found because it's an image, it's in SharePoint or OneDrive, and it uses the Cognitive Services computer vision API to crack open the file, do image to text, to index the text, and then once it's indexed, then it can be searched. Pretty powerful stuff. Cortex, Project Cortex, the first product, as mentioned, was the Syntax, but Cortex has a lot of automated Q&A stuff coming out that they're talking about. Joel Olson out here in Southern California in Oceanside has been evangelizing Project Cortex for probably 18 months. There are also security and compliance benefits coming from Project Cortex, and they've been working with a lot of partners, including RightPoint and others, to make it so files that automatically get dropped into SharePoint, it might be able, the system through its robotic learning will be able to go out and find information like maybe social security numbers or account numbers or routing numbers and lock those files down so that they can't be emailed outside of the organization or maybe emailed at all. So some of that cool stuff is coming with Project Cortex. The roadmap for Cortex, building of the AI models is coming out this month. There's going to be a new content center and some taxonomy stuff that's coming in that leverages the Graph API. Early next year, there's going to be expanded models and central model management, the taxonomy stuff. If you're interested in learning more about this, feel free to talk to me later about it. But the interconnected experiences, so for example, integrating Project Cortex's results with other third-party tools. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy on the East Coast. I'll remember it. It'll come to me. Anyway, his company will greatly benefit from leveraging Project Cortex. BA Insight, that's what I was thinking of. So if those two could talk together, you'll have an incredibly powerful platform for search results fast. Any questions about Cortex or Syntax? I highly recommend you watch the videos about this or talk to Joel about it. Keeping track of everything that's going on, or Naomi Moneypenny, has been challenging. It's pretty fascinating, and I'm looking forward to it.
You can also go to our user group website. Joel did do a presentation for the user group about Project Cortex maybe earlier this year, and you can review that. Hopping in for a little plug.
Yes, Joel has been touring the United States giving that, and it's wonderful. I'm very thankful that he did for your user group as well. So that's the roadmap for Cortex. All right, Microsoft Teams. Wow, lots of changes in Teams coming as well. The ones that I found were the best are that there is a meeting recap that automatically gets posted to the channel where the meeting was created. There's also a registration page experience, what they call webinar management feature, coming out soon. There's also a Walkie-Talkie feature in Teams on Android, so your frontline workers who just need to push a button, send something really quick, and get a response back quickly, and that is coming out on iOS very soon. There was an audible gasp worldwide about iOS not coming out with this feature first, but given how many executives at Microsoft use Apple products, but that is on its way. Also, what's live now is the Breakout Rooms feature of Teams, and this is helpful. For example, if say you're a student in an all-day SAT prep class, and you're all in Teams and you want to meet one-on-one with the teacher, they can right-click and break out and do a one-on-one with you and then go back into the regular meeting. And this feature is very popular. It is being used a lot in school today in colleges around the world. The other feature they're coming out with is a virtual background image change for Together mode. So not everybody wants to, I guess, sit in an auditorium with orange chairs or whatever color they are, and that change is coming soon. Also in Teams, you will be able to have live reactions during meetings. So I guess this is the equivalent of what, stars and thumbs up and smileys floating by when you're in a meeting. I don't know exactly what this will look like. I don't think I have a screenshot of that, but they talked about it in a breakout. Also, the membership in a Teams is up to 25,000 people in a team, and I empathize with anyone who's got to be involved with a team that large. Also, the meeting capacity, which has gone up several times, is now to 1,000 participants. I think that's great. The very first time we did our virtual SharePoint, I think we had like 248 or something, and the max at that time, it had moved up from like, we were trying to break it. It had moved from like 200 to 300 that day or something. So we weren't able to break it. It was working. Also, there's a new PowerPoint presentation embedded mode in Teams. And what this means is right now I'm sharing my desktop, but that's because I have the PowerPoint client installed. I also have the PowerPoint file in OneDrive that I've loaded, and I'm sharing my screen in Teams. Well, the new experience will be, the assumption is that the PowerPoint file will be in SharePoint, OneDrive, or Teams someplace, and you'll be able to click on it and say, begin presentation. And you won't have to have the desktop client, and the integration will be much tighter, a few mouse clicks less. The other feature coming out in Teams is the meeting recap will be posted to a channel. There's also a new approvals workflow that I don't know too much about, and the mute all feature, which has been requested forever, is now rolling out. All right, that is the Teams announcements. I can see that I didn't put screenshots in here. How am I on time? I think I have 10 minutes or so for Q&A. But any questions about Teams by anyone? Any of the new announcements in Teams?
You're doing fine on time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Ignite was announced, again virtual, in March of 2021. And so what the cadence typically is they do their big events at the end of summer, whether it's Ignite or Inspire. Bottom line is they always interfere with people who have school children. They're always like right during back to school time or something. But then what happens is in March, they follow up on the commitments that they made. It's like Microsoft's accountability checkpoint. They talk about the stuff that they announced, the stuff that they rolled out, the feedback that they've gotten on them, and they course correct. They also announce usually a couple more features, or like SharePoint 2021 might be announced in March. I'm just guessing. So in the spirit of SharePoint, of course, thank you all for attending and listening and being here and supporting the Kansas City O365 user group. I'm available for questions and answers as long as you guys need.
So what do you think the most exciting thing that's come out of Ignite is, personally?
Exciting versus stuff as a Microsoft partner I'm going to make money with my customers on are two different things.
I kind of think those are a little bit of both, right? It's kind of the same thing.
Well, so for the benefit of my customer, I like anything that makes it easier for them to get their job done without needing to call me. So I'm not a managed service provider, so it's not like I'm charging them whether they call me or not. I just want fewer calls at the middle of the night from somebody not knowing how to Teamify an existing SharePoint site. And the other questions I get asked a lot are things, where is the file? What happens when I share it? What do you mean I can't move it into Teams? Or I could move it into Teams, but then it won't move, or we can't move it because of governance, or it's locked in place on a legal hold. And of course, the ability for anything to be shared anonymously or with external users, like in the case of the stream stuff. Holy cow. I think we've all been very patient with that. I'm so happy now that we're going to be able to share those externally. So those are things that will reduce friction for customers. The potential for revenue generation, as somebody who does a lot of stuff with business process automation, of course, is the Syntax and Cortex stuff. I feel in many ways that things are sort of in beta. I haven't gotten my hands on a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of videos. I've heard a lot of pitches. I've seen some internal threads. I don't know if Syntax is ready for prime time until I get my hands on it. I've been doing stuff with RPA and BPA and BPM. Gosh, SharePoint Designer, early Nintex, professional, cert, also been using K2 for what seems like a lifetime. Now they bought each other out and did Flow, and now Power Automate, and done stuff in Pega and other systems over the years. And this is just one more competitive entry. I think people are going to want to know the price point for. I don't really understand the pricing, but what I do know is that I'll give you an example. I do have a customer, as I described earlier, who is, because of their, people overseas might take a PDF and translate it to German, sign the contract, scan it in, send it back, translate it back into English or maybe even Japanese. There's a couple banks in Japan. Also, Brazilian Portuguese. I've got the Bank of Brazil. I do stuff with them. And, Rabobank, and it's a Dutch bank. So I think that anything that will help to the key information from documents that requires my customer to do less clicks and saving back to SharePoint or OneDrive and having the OneDrive sync and get it back up there. Anything that automates all that is going to be huge. So here's an example. I do have a customer that's on a file server. We all have some customers who are still on file servers if you're in the enterprise space. And they're in the process of figuring out what stuff they want to migrate, what stuff they don't. Well, a huge value add would be is if we say we're going to take all your existing, we'll say, leasing contracts or financial banking paperwork or whatever that you've been storing on the file server. We're just going to drop them into the root of a OneDrive or SharePoint location, and automatically all those PDFs that are just images on PDFs are going to automatically be opened, OCR'd, indexed, searchable, using a model that it automatically creates. It will find key common things. I will then go on and train the robot on what things are important and what aren't. And then it goes through anywhere from 25,000 leasing agreements to potentially, 15 million pages of PDF documents, and makes it all searchable. So an example is, okay, a plain or a helicopter or a boat or a car or a motorcycle goes in, they have the VIN number or whole ID or whatever. If they can go into SharePoint search and type in that whole number and it pulls up everything from that, that is going to be enormous. That is such a huge win, and I think that's why Microsoft did it. So, great question. Thank you so much for asking that. How about you, Sharon? What did you think was the coolest? What got you the most excited? And if it's different from one that will make you money, what is, I mean, Android dark mode.
Yeah, I know. That's
cash cow, that
most
one.
exciting.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think my most exciting thing that I'm really interested in is a lot of the Azure Synapse stuff. So being able to build, custom APIs and a lot of the cloud architecture integration really maturing and progressing, I think is from I'm a nerd perspective. I think those are pretty cool. I mean, they're going to provide a lot of valuable functionality, but I think it's cool too. And then you can connect that through to Power BI for data visualizations and things like that. But and I think overall I'm really excited to see Microsoft maturing the cloud platform in general. So across this, we've had kind of, the last 3 to 5 years we've been kind of living with a foot in both worlds because they've been rebuilding all of our applications into the modern infrastructure and building out the cloud architecture and things like that. And so it's definitely been painful. And I'm going to say this, I know I'm on record, but it's been a painful experience for us at the development level because people who have been doing this for a really long time have struggled with learning a lot of the new architecture and new infrastructure. And I'm really excited to see we've gotten from can we do this to how do we do it, which is, I think, really exciting for me.
Agreed. Jonathan, anything fun or exciting?
Sorry, I forgot I didn't click my video button. You're on mute.
Every conference call ever.
So my favorite announcement is that they're going to automatically unmute us when we start talking, when they see our mouths moving. Okay, that wasn't a real announcement. No, I didn't have anything super exciting this year at Ignite. There were no new announcements about Whiteboard. So, I mean, it was kind of a bust for me.
A bust. Sorry, Microsoft. You provided 9 months worth of new information for me to read up on and to make money with, but no whiteboard. Gee whiz.
Right?
You're so funny, Jonathan.
On top of that, since we weren't live in person, I didn't get to play my Dave's Hat bingo. So, So question for you, Dave. In most of these pictures, we see you wearing a hat. How many hats do you own, and how many do you bring with you to a week-long conference like Ignite?
So I will typically, how many do I own right now? Of fedoras, I don't know that I own more than 4 right now. And the reason is because I stock up before going to an event. And when I'm at an event, we are typically there for 7 or 8 days. We arrive early. We try to leave late. As you know, we've gotten together afterwards and stuff and before. And I will typically bring 5, and I will color coordinate those with whatever outfit or suit or goofy thing that I'm buying. I'm just having fun. And during the week, I will dispose of 1. And the reason, it's usually 1, sometimes it's 2. And the reason is because at some of the parties and after parties, it is very frequent that people remove them from my head. They put them on their own head, and we're usually on the dance floor or in a social situation, and I don't necessarily want them back on my head all the time, but oftentimes they are placed back on my head and I just kind of ignore it for a while. And then I think, man, I can't wait to get home and,
throw this in the
shower.
Right.
I'm not
That
offended. I
was
mean, people like
was my
taking the
question.
hat off and taking a picture with me or getting in a picture, and that's fine. But I've been wearing them on and off since I was like, I don't know. I think I started when I was 12 or something. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have coworkers on here, so I should probably actually answer the question.
Sure.
I was excited to see some of the new data connections coming out for the Power Platform. At my day job, we don't specifically use most of those, but if we could do a real live data connection to on-prem SAP, that would be amazing. However, there's too many security holes and firewall issues and whatnot. So looking forward to the data integration with, what is it called, S4HANA?
Yeah.
Whenever we get there.
Leveraging that internally. Yeah. Big data. Oh, yeah, because you guys, you're talking about it at the water district or whatever, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, correct.
That huge financial system and the process of creating and generating and sending bills to customers that takes a lot of workload. So that'll be cool if on-prem and cloud can talk through those connectors. I agree.
Right. Yep.
And as someone who does systems integration work, what seems like probably some years it's like 40%, some years it's 80%. Anything that Microsoft can do to add more connectors to third-party systems is a huge win. It's just huge. If I don't have to do any custom programming and all I do in like Power Automate is add an action or a connector, that's enormous. Because I don't like rolling up my sleeves and coding anymore. I don't know if it's because of the fact that object-oriented languages were kind of a new thing when I was, at Microsoft. Not sure why, but I've been doing T-SQL and Oracle Toad and stuff like that. I can get data from systems, but ever since like Visual InterDev, I kind of don't like to go into Visual Studio. When Microsoft started announcing J# and F#, and it's like, man, I haven't even figured out C++ and VB.NET
Yep.
was like a big deal. I mean, I'm like, I've done Visual Basic automation stuff forever, and I don't do it anymore, but I like doing that stuff. But anyway, enough about me.
Yeah. I like to tell the developers, if you're using .NET, you're doing SharePoint incorrectly.
Sometimes you have to create a new web part, but
Right. If you're building widgets, you're building widgets to put into SharePoint, you use .NET. But if you're trying to build SharePoint, you shouldn't be using .NET.
I hear what you're saying. I tend to stay out of it as much as I can.
Right. Yeah. I had whole projects where I was recreating InfoPath forms because they had been originally created in C#. And so then when the end users wanted to add one field to a drop-down list or change a spelling of a field name, it had to go through the entire SDLC process.
Yeah, everybody who's done custom InfoPath development has been there, right, John?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, my other favorite is when a server goes down and the admin template disappears because it was part of like WSS 3.0. Yeah, the other one is, cracking open the XAML files and stuff like that to try to find an old version of an embedded drop-down text string. I thought it was interesting. It was almost immediately after Ignite and Microsoft is announcing all this great stuff. And I mean, Microsoft's independent software vendors like K2 and Nintex knew what was coming, but it wasn't shortly thereafter that K2 and Nintex announced whatever it is that they're doing, which to those of us in the workflow space, I'm sure, WebCon is just sitting back going, yeah, doesn't bother us. We have a superior product anyway, or something along those lines. I can't speak for them, of course, but this should be an interesting situation. I mean, for me, it was all about how many connectors were available with the product. That seemed to really help during the sales cycle of K2 or of Nintex. I mean, they just keep doing certain things better than the other and keep going back and forth. I don't really know what this new unified company A will be called, or B, what their go-to-market is, or what they're going for. Because, I mean, one product maybe was 15,000, another product was 50,000. Just because they bought each other out doesn't mean they should start paying 100,000. Meanwhile, Microsoft's like, oh, we'll give you, 10,000 calls to Flow for a penny, or whatever the pricing is. It's included for $35 a month with your E5 or whatever. So
they should become N2.
Yeah, N2. Yeah, might as well. I mean, it sounds funny. Like a build number, but
I mean, especially if they're in the connectors, right? You can do your Flow N2.
Yeah. Well played with the pun there. I would like to. Customers always wanted a comparison between what connectors came in the box, with Nintex or K2. But gosh, like the moment Flow was out, and like the first time I connected to the page, and there were like 30 out of the box connectors that required 0 programming. And yes, a lot of them connected straight to Microsoft line of business systems, or it's like CRM and to SQL. But right away, if you went with the Power Platform, you were going to win. You were going to be able to build things quick that were affordable for customers, depending on the licensing. Now, I will say, not related necessarily to any of what we're talking about, but what I will say is that on the Power Apps side, I've had an interesting conversations with licensing folks over the years, because envision, if you will, one multinational company owning 4 or 5 international business entities, each with all their own corporations. So ABC Gas Company also owns XYZ Solar Company, let's put it that way. And ABC builds things in Nintex to get the forms to work on a mobile browser. But then XYZ Wind and Solar does something that is in Power Apps. But the parent company, Contoso Holdings, we'll call it, decide, all right, well, we like the Power Apps option because it's free, it's free-ish. So cool, so go ahead and export that Power App and get it up in our environment. Well, because it's based on users, the subsidiary company, would have to pay like $200 million a year in licensing. I think Microsoft negotiated it down to like 15 million. But compared to like Nintex, where they were paying like $250,000, they just decided we just can't do Power Apps because of the cost. Also, taking it from one domain over to the other domain or to the parent company's domain required a lot of rejiggering, and you couldn't even do it for a while. So I'm involved with some pretty stressful licensing conversations that I usually have to pick up the phone and call somebody, a partner support manager, to help me get answers to. So there are some drawbacks, is what I would say. In together mode, that looks very funny, Jonathan. Oh, we have some stuff going on in the chat. Let's see. 7 miles on the bike. You don't want to see this. Where's the waffle? Funny.
So Sherry's big comment was, I think there was a little bit of frustration around the fact that there was not a lot of productivity announcements. It was more very heavily Azure development type stuff. But I mean, that's kind of typical with Ignite. I just think that I agree with her. They could probably do a better job of spotlighting productivity things. Like, we don't see a lot of stuff for project or planner or office apps.
There was a lot of stuff for project, actually. I texted Rod the slide deck. I just got one yesterday.
Yeah?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, where did I see that? I think it's on the very last.
I know they have a big roadmap, but I just don't think that it was really well covered.
No, but I mean, they spent a ton of time on Azure DevOps and
That.
Windows 10 and, oh gosh, what are the reusable components, the developer thing? What are those? Hold on. Well, that might come to me, but there was so much talk about that. And now I
Yeah, it
don't
was very
know what it
heavy dev in Azure as far as what we were seeing, but then the roadmap stuff kind of, I think a lot of it was just the productivity stuff didn't get covered as well as some of the other stuff did.
Yeah, I didn't, other than the PowerPoint integrating into Teams and just the holistically how SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Yammer are getting better, I didn't hear a ton about, well, this is the value when you're in Windows 10 and you use Office 365. This is what, or Microsoft 365. Here's the value add for continuing to use Word on premise versus in the cloud. There was project roadmap stuff, like you said, but I don't know if I just wasn't listening for it or what. But
there was a few sessions, I know, because I popped into a few sessions. I just think I agree with Sherry. They just don't highlight it, I think, quite as much. But I mean, it is what it is. So we've got just a couple minutes left. Once again, thanks for joining us and giving an overview of kind of what's going on and what your takeaways from Ignite were. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to pop them in chat or just say them out loud. I feel like
Dave, I was sad that there were no new updates on Microsoft Minesweeper, Microsoft Solitaire Pack, Microsoft Jigsaw, or Microsoft Treasure Hunt. Those were the updates I was looking for at Ignite this year. Dave's frozen. He can't even hear me.
Frozen for you too.
Yeah.
You made it all the way to the end. So close.
Jonathan, you broke him. That question, he gave up.
I mean, that's entirely likely.
Yes, that's what happens when you bring up stuff like that.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. He's like, see ya.
He probably had a rolling brownout or something. He's in California.
We'll give him a minute to pop back on. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
None from me.
Oh.
Can we talk for a minute? Hey guys, sorry.
Hey.
Was I?
Dave, did you have a rolling brownout?
Apparently, I had a hard stop 2 minutes ago. I didn't know about. Teams decided I was done.
I said you made it all the way right up to the end. All I was saying is thank you so much for being here and going over kind of some of the things.
What is going on? What? I'm right here.
There he is. Yeah, Dave, you missed it. I told you what my least. So what I was hoping for an update from Ignite was updates to Microsoft Minesweeper, Microsoft Solitaire Pack, Microsoft Jigsaw, and or Microsoft Treasure Hunt. I was sad that I didn't get an update to any of those.
Yes. I was looking for advanced spell check to arrive in Notepad.
Right? Nope.
And I was hoping for multiple copy and paste and calculator. Waiting for Melinda Gates to jump on and tell me about Microsoft Bob version 2, but I guess we're not going to get that.
All right, so with that, we've now hit the top of the hour, and
thank you, everyone. I had a great time.
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
For coming. We'll see you later. Everybody else, have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you next month.
You too.
Thanks, Dave. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lindsay.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
If you run into Joel, I gave him some extra whiteboard stickers, so make sure you get one from him.
I will do that.